Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maurie Beasley. I'm here with my husband, Jim Beasley, and it is Sunday afternoon, and we are exhausted.
Exhausted, and it's a very dreary day.
Yes, it is. Exhausted because, as you have been hearing, if you've been listening to our podcast, our daughter got married on Friday, and it was a very long few days for me. Last week, from Tuesday until Friday at midnight, and then Saturday I dog sat, and I just got home about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock this afternoon. So it's a little exhausting. So if I yawn in the middle of this podcast, please forgive me. And it is very dreary today.
Which is why I've been coughing all day.
So you're going to cough and I'm going to yawn, and we're just going to have a good old time
Exactly.
talking about artificial intelligence on Sunday afternoon, because that's what we do every Sunday afternoon is we sit down and we talk about artificial intelligence. And we're going to start this time. Last time we really talked about the dark side.
We did.
Something we don't normally do.
And we're not doing it this time either.
And we're not going to do it this time. And it'll probably be a while before we do it again. Occasionally you have to face the dark side. But this time we are going to flip back and we're going to talk about the positives. And one of those things, and one of the things that I think is going to enable people to trust AI, is something that you have been saying for a while. And the last two podcasts, it's been a little bit of a joke where you have made a comment or I have poked fun at you for saying from the cow to the hamburger, which is a very Texas thing.
It's about food chain, though.
It's about food chain. It's about trusting the source where you're getting your food.
Foods, medications, everything. They're putting more and more things in place to track it literally from the time it's grown until the time it's consumed. So if something happens, which we see quite often, there'll be a listeria attack. But you think about it, there's not as many as you would think for the amount of people, the amount of food,
Correct.
And all that other stuff. So they're doing a good job. And generally when you hear about it, within a few days, you hear about the source that it came from.
Oh, not just that, but you hear like, this is the
batch number.
The batch number of the product. Go look in your refrigerator right now and go take it back for a refund or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, they've got it down to absolute science. And part of that is a thing called blockchain.
As I understand it, and I'm not in the government, but as I understand it, they're using blockchain more and more because blockchain allows you to create an online record that is difficult, if not impossible. It's not impossible. It's very difficult to fake. You can't just jerk something out of a blockchain because it's propagated to lots of places and make that and alter the record and put it back. Even by altering, you can put another record, an update to a record, but the original still exists, and it's protected cryptographically. So it's got a lot of things in it that keep it from being faked, which is good.
See, when I was a little girl, we just had a ledger in a desk drawer.
It is they consider it an online ledger.
It's
a cryptographic ledger.
My dad would get a steer, or he would get a bull, or whatever, and he would write it down, and then we would keep up with all that.
But that's the beginning of it, because when he went to sell it that he had to have that data. That was all they're doing, is trying to transition that piece that's been around a long time into a digital form, so it's easier and faster to track backwards. What does that matter with AI? Well, the problem with AI, it's really fundamentally not that much different than when search engines came out and people started using them. You didn't necessarily trust. How many librarians have you heard say, don't trust Wikipedia?
Always. I was a teacher, and I used to tell my kids all the time, Wikipedia is not a source. It might be where you go find some sources that have been quoted, and then you go to those sources and verify that they're good. And even through getting my master's degree, you had to have a certain amount of what they called white papers or academic journals,
credentials that they had
things that are trusted.
Where they came from. You trusted them. Funny thing is, a lot of AI stuff came from Wikipedia. It comes from Wikipedia. They use a lot of stuff. Wikipedia has gotten more credibility over the years. It's not as bad now to use it. Now because it's humans, people that can just update it, but they've got a lot of people that watch it now too, that helps it. The point is that it's all about trust. That's what we're talking about. So when we talk about like this particular article in the consultingreport.com, Casper Labs and IBM forge an alliance to enhance AI governance with blockchain. All the time, I've been calling it digital lineage. I don't think digital lineage is the original term. I think that people have been using that term a lot longer, and it had more to do with internal machine learning processes and finding bugs in programs. I'm using the term, and I think I'm seeing it more by others as well, as a way of just like your dad's ledger book. Where did the AI training material come from? And that's going to be the problem that the big guys are going to have is they're passing laws like in Europe where they're talking about you have to know the training source of it. As those laws get passed, these people with these closed systems, they're going to have to find a way to authenticate the source of their data. Where did you get it from? And part of that is privacy, to make sure you didn't take data that you shouldn't, the privacy information.
Right.
Part of that is whether it's legit. Part of it is, of course, economic. Did you steal my data? Because now everybody's, all the data is becoming more and more siloed. You're seeing more paywalls now than you've seen in a long time.
All over the place.
Used to, you could get some articles off of Wall Street Journal, New York Times, but now you're lucky if you read one. Usually it's the first paragraph of it,
and you have to pay.
It's a teaser. As we've said in a previous one, welcome to the 80s, when you didn't read a newspaper unless you stood at the newspaper stand. You didn't read a newspaper or read a book or anything else unless you paid for it.
Correct.
And now we're so used to information being readily available and free. Google, all the search engines, were all giving you all these nice curated things to look at every day with all your news headlines. You could click on any one. Can't do that now.
You were able to watch a TV show without a commercial.
Yeah.
Now you can't.
Anyway, this idea of using some mechanism for tracking the data back to its source, that's what this is about. IBM is one of the original founders of artificial intelligence, machine learning, all that stuff. They haven't done a great job capitalizing on it as much as they should have, considering that, but they also invented the PC and didn't do a great job of that either.
Right,
so
right.
They kind of get a history of that. But anyway, the next article is, hold on, here we go.
The value of end-to-end data lineage, especially for AI. It's just what we were talking about.
It is. And this is from Matillion. I've never even heard of this. Matillion.com.
Well, it looks like they have products that they sell.
They probably do. The thing is, this company is, they're talking more about, a lot of it about troubleshooting and debugging and optimizing data pipelines and all that other stuff. But it's still a similar idea, is you got to know where the data came from before you can determine whether or not if there's a problem. Is it the system itself that's giving you the problem? Because it's maybe you got your neural nets program wrong or whatever, or weighted wrong, or it was the original data source corrupt. There's a lot of things that go into trust, but I think just like you saw with Google or Wikipedia, where people used to say, that wouldn't be used to, they didn't want you. Even early on, I remember they didn't want you to use online sources. They wanted you. Yeah, you wanted to.
I had to get into the city library in downtown Austin and go look at microfilm or go find that actual book to get that source from. And yeah, it was difficult.
So paper was considered to be a reliable source because it took a long time to get it in print. So a lot of people got to look at it before. You couldn't just blast it out to the world back then. So now we're going to transition a little bit. Again, it's about trust, but.
So there's a person Matt Wolf.
I've been following Matt Wolf probably at least, it got to be at least a year. He got a lot more followers now than he did when I started. He's got 562,000 YouTube followers.
He is a very interesting person. He literally does video podcast in his home, but he is like
the information source. He's a good one too for me.
A really good one. He does a lot of, it's not just that he tells you the news. Since he does this through YouTube, he shows you a lot of demonstrations of a lot of different tools and a lot of different technology.
Well, he's got a site called Future Tools, which I also use, where you can go search for different AI tools that he keeps. I used to do that one quite a bit as we talked about different tools on our earlier podcast.
Well, he was at South by Southwest,
which we
really wanted to go to it.
Because it's in Austin. It's right next. It's our neighbor.
It is in Austin, but it was our daughter's wedding coming up. And, this was the last weekend, this weekend for South by Southwest. We knew we couldn't make it this weekend. And then, of course, last week I was really busy. And then the EDU part of it was the week before.
Yes. And, we just didn't quite get the schedules to work.
Didn't quite get there. But one of the things, he was there. And so on one of his latest podcasts or video, YouTube videos, he actually shows a video of somebody talking about artificial intelligence. And according to him, and I believe it, I saw it, there was a lot of artificial intelligence programs at South by
Oh
Southwest.
yeah, he talked about it a lot.
Some of the people that I follow on LinkedIn and that follow me on LinkedIn, we've been conversing about it back and forth. A few of them were actually there and they were like doing presentations and things. Um, we had talked about trying to go and possibly present, but it's one of the things that I'm kind of glad we didn't, because apparently there was a lot of heckling and booing going on
Yes.
in all of the different AI sessions. And I'm like, why? Why would someone sit there and boo these AI sessions? And then you pointed it out to me a few minutes ago that I hadn't really thought about it. South by Southwest was originally started because of the film industry in Austin.
Film, it's still a big part of it, and the music industry and the film industry. But I think music was probably the very first, and then the film industry. It's always been a big part of it. Of course, it's a big news thing because some of the people from the music industry pulled out because of what's going on in the Middle East. And Abbott told them, our welcoming governor said, good riddance, you guys don't come back, because he's such a welcoming guy to people coming into
absolutely,
town.
Absolutely.
He hates Austin. What can I say? But anyway, a lot of he kind of did a clip. I don't know if this was a single video of all the different AIs.
It was different AI.
And
it
people
was
booed every single one of them?
It was different AI sessions that he had been in, because he goes in almost like a reporter.
He does.
And that's what he does. He reports on AI stuff.
Yes, which is why
and so he went in as like a reporter, and all the different little clips that he put together was all the different sessions that people were booing these people who were giving AI speeches and AI keynotes. And it's because the people who were sitting in the audience are the musicians, and they are the actors, and they are the actresses.
Feel threatened.
And they feel very threatened by artificial intelligence.
Yes. And, he mentioned somewhere in this report that he did about people saying, you just have to accept it. It's coming. And he said, that's the wrong way to put it.
Absolutely.
You don't have to accept anything. I mean,
I think there was a presidential or governor candidate one time that kind of put their foot in it that way.
Something like that.
Yeah.
The fact is that if you really want people to understand it, that's why history is necessary. We teach history because we learn lessons from it.
You say you teach history so you don't repeat
That's
history,
what the saying goes.
A lot of
those who don't
understand is starting to repeat.
Those who don't understand it are doomed to repeat it, I think is the saying.
Yes.
So anyway, if you don't follow Matt Wolf, he on YouTube. He does a good job of reporting this stuff. Just this thing, he just posted this yesterday, 2 days ago, and it's got 447,000 views. So people are interested in this stuff. I think that, so we're going to kind of go a little bit into that history thing we just mentioned.
Yeah, because I mean, AI is a technology. It is a technology, and there have been technologies, and let's face it, a car, we don't look at a car as being a piece of technology, but it is an invention that happened that changed the world. So let's look at AI as an invention that has happened that will change the world. So let's go back and look at some of the other inventions.
The car is a good one, by the way,
that have happened.
People hated the car when it first came out. They said it was dangerous and it was going to cause accidents. People were going to die, which some people did.
And they do.
This one is from bigthink.com.
People destroyed printing presses out of fear. So this is, I mean, when was the printing press? We just looked this up a little bit ago. 1440. Gutenberg invented
the movable type printing press.
The movable type printing press.
And what happened? Read the first, the purple line there.
New technologies have always scared people. When the printing press was invented, scribes, guilds destroyed the machines and chased book merchants out of the town.
And they were trying to sell Bibles.
It was the Gutenberg Bible. I mean, okay, let's look at this.
Bible
well, let's look at this as from a religious standpoint. We don't go religious very often. But if the Bible had not been printed using a printing press, if they had succeeded in destroying
not as many copies would be
press, the propagation of anything, any news, any religion, anything would have slowed down so much.
Whether that was good or bad, you can argue however you want. But the fact is that the middle class, people that were wealthy could afford these scribes, these monks, or whoever that
Yes.
sat there and wrote this stuff.
Yes.
They had beautiful penmanship, by the way. That was probably the beginning of the end of beautiful penmanship. But
The
that
common
the
person
common
could not do
person
that.
could not do that.
And therefore, they were not educated and they didn't have
It,
access to
that is
information.
correct.
And
So this whole fear of things has been going on a long time. So let's look at a couple of perspectives on AI. This one is from fastcompany.com. I'll let you read the headline on that one.
how AI is making us more boring and less creative.
This is an excerpt from iHuman. The author argues that it's up to us to develop and grow our real selves. Now, I like this quote because it's beyond the predictable creatures co-opted by AI. One of the things that you and I were talking about before we started this podcast is when you train an AI, even ones that maybe they can learn, maybe they can't. But when you talked about our daughter's wedding, it really made me start thinking about this. This is why I was wanting to do this podcast. I wrote a speech,
It was a very
and
good speech.
I was told by so many people that the speech touched them and all this other stuff. I didn't think it was that great. The only thing I used AI for was just to make sure I had all I didn't know what the father of the bride speech
Like
was
the
supposed to have in
introduction,
it.
like the outline.
I literally just created an outline, but all the content was my own, and I thought it was a little emotional, but people seemed to respond to the fact that it was so emotional. I had more
It was
people
because it was human.
and that's the thing that I realized as I was giving that speech is if I would have written that, which I could have written with ChatGPT, it would have been very vanilla, which is what our Medium article we just released was about. It's these companies, because they're about mass production, they're about getting the masses to spend lots of money. What is that saying? Sell to the rich, live with the masses, sell to the masses, live with the rich. They want to
Yes.
sell to the masses because they want to live with the rich. But the fact is that AI, as you do that stuff, as you make everything vanilla, you don't want people to stand out. The whole point is I want it to be the same. You've got to be the same. As I said in that.
Oh, Hallmark movies. We
I
were
know.
just talking about this
I
earlier.
know. I used to like them better than they are now.
Now they're all the same. They all have a script. They know what sells.
Well, they've always been similar, but there was enough variation that I used to watch them with you and actually enjoy them. We'd always make comments about how they were kind of vanilla.
The kids would pick on me.
But it's true now. Even you notice it.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a formula and it works. And these big companies want a formula that they know is going to sell a certain quantity. When I worked for a big tech company, and the big decision was we're going to come out with this brand new earth-shattering laptop. It's kind of a bigger screen. And that's what we talk about in that article that we wrote. The fact of the matter is that AI can make us all vanilla. It can. It can make everything we have vanilla. But do we have to let it?
No.
I mean, I didn't let AI write that speech because I felt weird. I wanted it to be heartfelt to my daughter, so I wrote it myself.
Your daughter tried to use AI to write her vows.
I know, she told me.
It was cringy. We really got a nice little laugh out of it.
Yeah, so
she ended up writing them herself, but yeah.
Let's look at the other side. So we have
how generative AI can augment human creativity.
And this is the Harvard Business Review.
And this is the side that I tend to sit on. And the reason is because I feel that I am a very creative person.
You are a very creative person.
But there's always something that it's kind of like I have to get that oomph to do something creative. I think about it, and I just don't quite have that thing that's going to kind of like push me over to get me to actually do it that often. Whereas now, I mean, I'm working on another Medium article that I really wanted to work on for like the last 2 or 3 weeks. And today I finally sat down with ChatGPT-4 and I said, here is an article that I wrote previously. I'd like to do a follow-up. Please help me come up with an outline that you think I should follow up with. And it gave me some information, and now I took it and I put the outline, and now I'm going in and filling out the outline, just like when I was in high school and we would have to give an outline to our teacher before we actually wrote the articles or the papers that we were writing.
Maybe that's why we don't have hundreds of thousands of followers, though. We actually write this stuff ourselves.
It takes a longer time.
It takes longer, and I like to feel like the human touch is important. And when you go back to that digital lineage and the stuff we talked about earlier, I really think that the next big thing, which we're going to talk about some more of the technology that was going to ruin the world kind of stuff in a minute. The next big thing is, was it created by a human?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot prove anymore with any reasonable certainty that something was AI generated. But you can prove that it was human created.
Yes.
And that's what the blockchain, the created by human stuff is all about. And I think that's going to have value. And I think that value is going to cause the industry to be bigger than it ever was instead of smaller, like some people think.
Well, let's talk about that industry. I know there was a thing the other
This
day. Apple iTunes turned 20, I think.
Well, this
In
particular article,
2023. Not too long ago, it turned 20.
yeah, this particular article was 10 years into that. This was done in 2013. What's the headline? CNN Business Review.
It was when it turned 10, and it was a decade of iTunes singles killed the music industry. And I thought this was really interesting when we were looking at this information.
Yep.
It talked about how it went from 11.8 billion in
2003, which is when the iPod came out, I guess,
to 7.1 billion last year. Now,
so they had a drop.
7.1 billion.
Still a lot of money, but that's a big drop too.
But it is a big drop.
But
if you look at it, what it is today.
We looked up another stat today. It says, according to IFPI's Global Music Report, global music sales reached 26.2 billion.
Which is a 9% increase from previous
year. Which, by the way, 12.7 billion is streaming. I mean, streaming was going to kill the music industry too.
And now it makes up almost half of it.
Exactly. I read that the photocopier, we did a thing on one of our podcasts about the photocopier was going to ruin the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that the creativity and it's going to change, but here's what I'm going to get on. I got a little time left for my soapbox. So I'm going to get on soapbox about education.
You've got a little less than 9 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to get on my soapbox about education. What are they currently trying to do, at least here? In Texas.
There's a lot of different states.
What are they trying to do? They literally looks like they're trying to kill public education.
Are definitely.
We've got people that are in the press attacking librarians for the things that they do. Who do we need more than anything right now?
Librarians.
We need librarians, and we need digital literacy, and we need public education. And all those creative people, I hope that they see that it is going to change how they're creative, but they're more important now than they've ever been, because they can humanize things that AI cannot. Wow. They can see the world from a particularly human standpoint. They can write great speeches that emotionally touch people that AI is not going to. If you allow the world to become vanilla, which we did. I mean, you think about already what's happened with online and how uniform everyone's gotten because of social media. There's a certain way you dress and all this other stuff. And but creative people have always stepped outside the box that was drawn by the rest of the world, the normal, and said, this is how I want to do it. We had a girl that lived with us when she was a teenager a long time ago, Jasmine. One of the most creative, original people. She used to go shop at these resale shops and stuff, and she'd come back with clothes, and we're like, Jasmine, why would you buy that? Oh, well, it was inexpensive. And then she would put together an outfit, and it was very unique, and yes. You guys all liked. Of course, I have no taste in that, but you guys all liked it. Mm-hmm. AI can take away some of those vanilla tasks, but it doesn't take away human creativity if you don't allow it.
Well, I'm on Midjourney a lot, and one of the reasons I go to Midjourney and onto Discord is because I like seeing the prompts that other people are putting in there, and you can 100% tell the difference in a prompt from a person who is an actual photographer and knows what they're doing versus a prompt from somebody who's not. And the images that they're producing are so much nicer and more detailed.
And you look at it and you go, what made you think of that? Matt Wolf is funny when I watch him sometimes, and he's testing one of these new things. And because his last name is Wolf, he's always asking things about Wolf. But it's things like, generate an image of a wolf eating a pizza on the moon. And I'm sitting there going, who would even think of that?
Right.
Creative people like you, and I'm not saying what I do. Technology people are very creative. It's a different kind of creativity, though. And that's why now's not the time to kill the humanities majors and the theater majors and the librarians and all that. We need them more than ever because they help define what it is to be human.
Yes.
AI is not human. Matt was making a joke about how, no, it wasn't him, it was another guy I watched, was making this comment about how if you want to get on get a lot of clicks on YouTube. No, it was Matt Wolf. You get a lot of clicks on YouTube, then you have to use AGI, artificial general intelligence. AI is going to take over the world. And AGI is the way it's going to do it. And he said, most of these things are using ChatGPT-4 in the background, or GPT-4. They're not AI. They're not AGI. And even if they are, that doesn't mean the end of humanity any more than the printing press did, or the iPod. Mm-hmm. And we need those creative people to look at this tool and go, what can I do different? There's a guy that I've been following for years, helped create a language called P5.js. First time I did a machine learning class was machine learning for artists. P5.js was literally a programming language created for artists to make it easier for artists to create things using a digital media. And he's got 2-3 million followers. He's a professor, I think. But I've been following him with his P5.js. It was before that, it was called processing was the language, and it transitioned to P5.js. Maybe AI is the next P5.js. It's the new medium that people are going to play in, that's going to open whole new realms of creativity. Some people that are very creative have a creative side. Like, I like artistic things, but I've never been able, I can't draw or anything like that. So maybe I'll be able to do things creatively that I couldn't do before.
That's what I see it. I see that artificial intelligence is not going to replace me. It's going to give me the courage to do things that I wouldn't normally do.
I'm already doing that.
Absolutely.
I tried generating images. Would I like to learn to paint? Well, you know what? The more I do stuff like that, the more I appreciate the stuff that you do paint. I mean, I've seen you sit up there and you wanted something for the wall, so you painted it yourself, and you paint a blue bonnet, or you paint, flower scene or stuff like that. And I liked it when you did that. You've painted the kids' bedrooms and stuff for years, and you've painted murals on the walls. You can do that. I can't. And I'm not ever going to be able to hand sketch a mural on the wall like you do. But I've also seen you take an overhead projector and project an image on the wall and trace it out.
Yes.
You used a tool to do it. Maybe AI is going to be that new tool.
For people who want to be creative, who just can't get over the hump.
So don't boo the creative. It's probably not going to go away. I can't tell you to accept it, but I'm seeing so much money and effort put into it.
It is not.
It's not going to go away. We need people that are creative to take those creative random juices that are flowing around in their head and figure out how to use these tools to take human creativity to the next level.
I agree. I 100% agree.
So anyway, I'm off my soapbox. Education is important. Stop trying to kill public education. If you're a politician or one, tell them it may not be perfect, but if you don't like what it is, fix it instead of trying to defund it and make it all private where people like, Betsy DeVos and her can actually, give loans to people. The rate we're going, every school is going to be private, and you're going to have to take out a loan to send your kids to high school. Public education is important, people. I mean, I'm not saying it's the end all. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying private schools don't have a place. They've always been around, but you need both, not just one or the other. And the public schools are where those kids that can't afford it, they need to have access to these tools of creativity. And we're struggling with that now. How are we going to make AI safely available to the kids? So anyway, I said I was off my soapbox.
And then you got back on it.
Got back on it. I'm off it again. I hope this was more positive than last time, because I didn't like the walk on the dark side. After we did that, it was 3 or 4, it was like detoxing. For 2 or 3 days after that, Amy was complaining because everything I was sending her was more dark stuff. She's like, okay, it's time to stop now. We're gonna move on back to the positive.
And now you're sending Amy and I things about digital lineage.
I am cow, from the cow to the hamburger.
From the cow to the hamburger.
I'm going to say from the cornfield to something else. That's what I'm going to say.
You said filing the serial numbers off, and that kind of like went somewhere. And now one of these days you're going to see that headline and some big, as Jim Beasley said, from the cow to the hamburger.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't think
maybe they could. Maybe I'll say something more profound than that to be quoted eventually.
That sounds good. So we are out of time for this Sunday evening. I'm actually going to go take some ibuprofen and a hot bath because I'm exhausted.
Guess what I'm going to do?
You're going to go out to your office and work on artificial intelligence.
Well, I've got a local language model large language running locally on my
Yes.
Mac.
Yes. And
And
working on JSON.
it's really answering some
doing some
questions.
sentences.
It got a little crazy earlier today when I asked it a question, but I'm starting to get it
You
down.
asked it a question about our assistant superintendent, and it really liked him.
It really went off.
Thought he was great. He is great. But
except it didn't know anything about him and made it all up. So
yes.
we're trying to work on this.
Anyway, we are done for this evening. I do hope that everyone who is listening has a absolute marvelous week ahead.